Okay.
What's your name?
Yeah, right.
What is your
favorite color? Right.
request?
Oh, we're going. No, not yet.
Yes.
Oh, we're live.
Oh, yeah.
No, that was embarrassing.
I thought we were dead, Seth. How can we lie?
What a terrible. I'm sorry. What a terrible way to begin our broadcast. So unprofessional, but that's us. Anyway, our last discussion unfortunately got cut short. Some internet issue, which we won't name names or anything, which is fine. Anyway, welcome to our incense discussions at Woodstock Trading Company. If you have any interest in any of the stuff that we're talking about, you can reach us. We can send you a sample. If you want, send us a self-addressed stamped envelope. Woodstock Trading Company, 1880 Route 70 East. I'm all crooked here right now, right? Route 70 East, Cherry Hill. They're shaking their head, I know. Cherry Hill, New Jersey, 08003. We're hardly professional.
They can call us.
You can call us. Oh, yeah, I forgot about it. We have those phones. Those teleo phones. 856-424-6166. If you have any questions about any of this stuff. We can't send the samples through the phone, unfortunately. We don't have the smell-o-vision thing yet. They're working on the 3D printers that can assemble things on a molecular level. They're working on that, which is pretty cool. So maybe be able to use it to replace failed organs and things like that. Pretty crazy, pretty wild.
Only the Hammond stuff.
So anyway, I believe where we pick up is at item number 62. This is from the Balaji series. They're really a pretty good series. We really like them. They're very interesting, tend to be fairly bright, fairly aromatic. In this series, this is Balaji Prashanth, number 62, which is relatively light as far as these fragrances go. Probably the lightest in the entire series. And it bears some similarities to some Champa incenses that we have. It probably contains some of that key ingredient that defines Champa incenses. If you want, you can even go back to might have been the first or the second of these discussions that we had. We were talking about incense types and how they're, particularly Indian incenses, and how they're constructed and what they're made from and their classification. I mean, this is a masala or durbar incense, most likely a masala, which would mean that its ingredients are solid. They're solid ingredients. But to describe this, beautiful ambers, is the core of this fragrance. The key ingredient that we're looking for to define a champa is called halmadi, which certainly I suspect there's a small amount that can pick up something akin to halmadi. Sometimes you hear the term frangipani. Those two terms, as far as I know, are interchangeable, and it refers to this kind of gunky, oatmeal-y looking semi-solid stuff that never completely dries. It's a tree gum. Oh, see you soon. Yeah, sorry. It never completely dries and has this nature of pulling water out of the air. It's called hygroscopic. So champa incenses always kind of feel a little bit damp. They never completely dry out. And this one also always feels a little soft. But also, you're going to pick up, I'll pass this around. You're also going to pick, it's a little sweet, a little bit caramelly, something in there that you'll pick up kind of almost like graham cracker, I guess, something a little bit malty. If you ever smell like malt syrup, there's a little bit of that going on. Faint floral. There is a faint floral, kind of violety, I suppose, honey. You smell, maybe it's like a wildflower honey. Very, very light. This kind of a fragrance, normally, a fragrance such as this normally would be at least 3, 4, 5 times as strong as this. It smells like a powerful fragrance that's been cut down into something very, very subtle. And normally you don't find fragrances this complex, this light. Most light fragrances tend to be moderately simple. This one has a lot going for it. Very subtly sweet. Amber, like graham cracker, malt kind of fragrance. Also, there is something vaguely floral. To me, it's sort of violety, for lack of a better way of describing it. The Prashant, the Balaji series, they all have certain similarities. This one of them all being the lightest. Balaji Red might be the strongest, and it's sort of similar to this, but a lot muskier and about 3 times the strength easily. So let's show off a few things that people who would care for Balaji Prashant. That's number 62, just a reminder. These are wonderful packages, and I do such a good job now packaging them, and I can't open them. I know, I might. Hey, can you do me a favor and grab me those scissors if you get a chance? I'm staring right at the person I'm talking to. Can you do me a favor? The snippy things that...
I don't know where they are.
Yeah, I know, that's why I didn't.
Could you describe that again?
Sure.
The Metzenbaum?
Yeah, Metzenbaums, that's a type of scissors. They're very sharp, they're slightly curved, they're slightly blunted ends. Metzenbaums.
Hey, Seth, are you permitted to use them this week?
Don't ask me how I know all that stuff about surgery.
Are you permitted to use sharps this week?
Oh, dang.
Oh, wow, those are nice. These are from the
That's my personal.
These are from the
scissors.
Chinese grocery. Anyway, this one here I'm going to show off goes by the unlikely name Ja Love, J-A-H, Love. This is item number 102, and this is certainly a Champa incense. This certainly contains Halmadi. Let me pass that on to you there. Take your time. I don't know why we're so sarcastic today. You have to pardon us. This is not going to come off well.
There's still time.
I know. You're right. I have a lot of incenses to show, and this can turn around. Anyway, lightly sweet if you've used Champa incenses. This is a little bit, Ja Love's a little bit lighter, a little bit drier than your average Champa incense. It seems to not quite have as sharp a quality, particularly Srinivasa's Nag Champa. That's the classic blue box Nag Champa, which, in my opinion, you can disagree, it's kind of lost its way as an incense. I mean, it's still a wonderful fragrance, but it really doesn't resemble itself. I know it sounds like a weird thing. If you've had Nag Champa before, say in the mid 80s through even early 90s, and you have it now, it in no way resembles itself. It has changed dramatically. Fragrances such as this are probably a closer match to what the original Nag Champa was like back in the mid 80s. And this is an old style Champa incense. This one has remained relatively unchanged. It's had many different names. And it's very, very similar to another one, which actually I didn't bring over here, and I should have mentioned, called Sairanjani Champa. Also, this one is a little bit lighter even still, but Sairanjani also has kind of an interesting earth mineral quality to it, slightly indoors, almost cavernous quality. Like if you've ever been in a cave, there's a certain musty smell, or even like an indoor pool. If you've ever gone into like an indoor pool, especially in the winter, there's a certain like aquatic, almost a bit of that chlorine-like smell. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but that is so about Sairanjani. Ja Love doesn't quite have that. It's very, very lightly sweet, very subtly floral. It's a really true Champa incense. Yeah, again, if you wanted a sample of any of these, send a self-addressed stamped envelope. I'm going to repeat that a few times. To Woodstock Trading Company, 1880 Route 70 East, Cherry Hill, New Jersey, 08003. Yeah, Ja Love, it gets overlooked, and I think it's just such a great Champa incense. And I love to show this to Champa enthusiasts. Some people are very, very faithful, and they can't be swayed, which is fine. That's cool. and I can't argue with it. But something like that, it's such an unusual and wonderful old style champa that I highly recommend it. We're going to show some familiar stuff, at least to us. I mean, they're very, very familiar. And if they're not familiar to you, you got to be familiar with these. It's time. These are amazing, true classic fragrances. Such a super hit. We tend to take some of these are fragrances we tend to take for granted, and we really shouldn't.
What's its number?
148. It's one of the few I actually remember. I'm a word person, not a number person. When I memorized my cranial nerves, I couldn't remember their numbers. I still have trouble. If somebody said cranial nerve 7, I'd have to go through naming them one by one. The only ones I really remember is 1 and 8, things like that, and 10. It's the vagus nerve. Vagus, and I always had trouble how to spell it. Is it with an E or an A? Because I'm a terrible speller. And I remembered vagus means the wanderer. The nerve, the vagus nerve refers to the nerve as a wanderer. So the word vagabond is one who wanders. So I remember, so it's V-A-G. Okay, yeah, vagus nerve. Cranial nerve 10. It's a cool nerve. Anyway, such a super hit. Don't know how the name came about. I don't know the etymology of the name. If you buy it already in boxes, very distinctive black and silver box with the zodiac signs on it. I still keep thinking of this as a new fragrance, but we've had this, I don't know for how long now. It's got to be a decade or so. And this was like the third incense to really rival Nag Champa. And it's made by the same people, Srinivas Sugandhalaya. The second one was Satya Natural, originally simply called Satya. This one here is considerably more aromatic than Satya Natural. It's much brighter. Satya Natural has more of the chocolate, white chocolate, cappuccino kind of thing. This one here has the strawberry, vanilla, banana split kind of quality about it, a little bit marshmallowy, a little bit powdery. You can tell it's not purely confectionery. There is a bit of sophistication going on, kind of a subtle musk quality. The fog machines, that came up, I believe, last week. The subject of the fog machines, there actually is a connection between some incenses and the fog machines. You've gone to or the laser shows, whenever you go to those laser Zeppelin or whatever, laser Floyd, the medium in the fog machines often is a solution of water and propylene glycol. It's related to ethylene glycol. Ethylene glycol is much, much, much more toxic. It's antifreeze, stuff in antifreeze. It's almost identical to ethyl alcohol, the stuff that you drink, except it has one more alcohol group than ethyl alcohol. That little change, that extra oxygen molecule, makes it extraordinarily toxic. And even worse are its breakdown products, are much, much, much more toxic than even the ethylene glycol. So a person comes in, usually children, because it kind of tastes sweet. There's a sweet taste. Like glycerin, chemically identical to glycerin, except glycerin has one more carbon atom and another alcohol group, another OH. You see that OH is an alcohol group. So what they want to do is they want to prevent the liver from breaking down the ethylene glycol, because the breakdown products are even more toxic. Like methanol, same thing. Methanol is one carbon atom and an alcohol group, okay? And that produces formaldehyde and formic acid, which, if you've ever seen cadavers, that's what they preserve cadavers in. And the most sensitive part of your body to it probably is your retina, optic nerve, things like that. So they go blind, they call them blind drunk, right? So the treatment to reduce the amount of damage done by these breakdown products, one thing they give is alcohol. They give you ethyl alcohol and lots of it to try and compete for the enzyme sites, so it breaks down the ethanol and doesn't break down the ethylene glycol, and the ethylene glycol comes out in your waste. as would methanol or whatever. Anyway, propylene glycol, that's 3 carbons, chemically identical to glycerin, except has 1 less alcohol group. 2 carbons, each with an alcohol group, and then another carbon with just hydrogens. Anyway, that's what's in fog machines, that stuff. Some of these charcoal-based incenses use it as a solvent, as a way to dilute the perfumes. That is not volatile. If you use a volatile substance, it will evaporate and leave the sticks kind of dry, and they'll burn too quickly. The propylene glycol will slow the burning down process and actually give it a slightly sweet smell. In fact, have you ever seen somebody, speaking of which, that has their heat, like their radiator blows in their car? They describe a sweet smell, and that's ethylene glycol. That's not. There are some disreputable incense companies that have used ethylene glycol, and they really shouldn't. You can also use glycerin, but it's much more expensive than propylene glycol. So yeah, fog machines will use propylene glycol. So anyway, that's such a super hit. Item number 148. Very bright, very aromatic. Kind of that banana split, you know, strawberry, banana, like vanilla. We're going to take you down a little bit more of a sophisticated pathway. Not saying better. Sophistication can be overrated. I know.
Sorry to interrupt.
Certainly.
Just to remind you, I believe it's to the right of what you can see on the screen. People actually can submit questions to you there.
Okay. I don't know if they heard that, but yeah, if you wanted to send in a question, you can do that. There's a little thingy right there on the right in case you didn't hear it. Curious. I'm just kind of looking at this. I don't know what that means. All right. All right. Somebody said I'm British, by the way. I guess that's why they put it on the right. It's the tendency we
Like
tend to
the
go on the
stick.
left.
Like
Anyway, yeah, you were here in fact when we first showed this one. This one we call calling Forest Deep. Remember this one?
yes.
Yeah, right. This one here, people like the Balaji Prashanth often also like Forest Deep. This one's number 26. I don't remember what 26 used to be, but whatever it was, we can't get it anymore. So it's now Forest Deep.
We recycle.
Oh, sure we do. It's 100% post-consumer numbers. Anyway, this one, beautiful, beautiful, sweet, earthy, mossy, loamy, little bit of that sort of incense saffron, safflower, very subtle, almost bitter edge, the way some, like arugula has a slight bitter edge to it that cleanses your palate, makes you want more. Sort of subterranean, cavernous, you know, you can almost hear the water dripping from the ceiling. Very cooling. There's also something really subtle I'm picking up. Maybe it's the frankincense, because there's a slight lemony or almost lime. Try that again. Think now. Sorry to reach. Sort of a subtle lime or bergamot, or even like, do you ever have a pomelo or pomelo? Is it pomelo or pomelo? It's one or the other. It's sort of like a really big grapefruit that you get in Asian groceries. So there's a subtle citrus note that I never noticed until now, and I suspect it's from frankincense. Frankincense can have a sort of a lime, lemon, bergamot. Bergamot, if you're not familiar, Earl Grey tea. That's what defines Earl Grey tea, is bergamot. They can either use the oil or the rind, either one, and they'll usually flavor a black tea, usually an Assam, right, or a Darjeeling or some blend of the two. This is one, I'll tell you, good choice. If you're thinking about sampling something, this is such an unusual, and it's unlike any other incense you've probably ever used before. This wouldn't be a bad choice. If you want to think about sampling something, this would be a superb choice. If you have one fragrance in particular that you'd like to sample, let us know, or you can just sort of give it, have faith in us, and we'll pick good things. We can usually send a few samples.
You can send up to 6 sticks.
Yeah, we can send quite, 3, 4 or so, maybe more samples, depending on the weight of the sticks. Because we try and keep it under an ounce so that we can send it, first class mail. I mentioned frangipani as a material, but there are also incenses called frangipani, most of which don't contain any frangipani and don't smell anything like frangipani. Here we have an exception. This is number 11, frangipani. Saw that one coming. Don't forget, in some of those mystery novels, the butler actually did do it. Now nobody would expect the butler because they always like, nah, that's too obvious. There's no way the butler did it. Sometimes it does happen. First thing you'll notice, of course, that distinctive material called halmati. You've had Nag Champas before. See, there's something about them that is so distinctive, and I really, really like about them. And all of them have the same kind of core to their fragrance. So you know instantly after having had some Champa incenses, this is a Champa incense. You'll also get, again, that sort of lime, getting that same lime, almost like a lime confection quality, almost like lime sweet tarts, right? Which gives it really a nice tart note that cleans it up beautifully. Also, there is a subtly, almost a fatty smell to it, like teakwood. There's some incenses that contain teakwood that have a distinctive fatty smell, like beeswax candles. And when you put out a beeswax candle, pure beeswax candle, it produces a certain fatty smell that I'm getting a little bit of. And it also still has that very subtle, distant, cleansing, bitter note that you can almost chew on. It's almost like, it's almost like a tannic note that you can almost bite into, like apple peel. How the peel of an apple has a distinctive taste to it. And this bears some of that quality. And it's not a spice note. It's not like cinnamon or any of those other kind of things. But there is a very, very distant background of a very cleansing, bitter note. Also a little bit of something camphorous as well. True camphor, not the mothball stuff. Real camphor that I'm picking up as well, which really cleans it up. I had a Tibetan incense that had quite a bit of that in it. In fact, we're going to show later, if we have time, a really camphorous incense that will knock your socks off. Way back when, we had one simply called Flower, and we couldn't get it anymore, and I found something that's very, very close to it. You know what? We're going to move to the next fragrance, I guess. I mean, I could show more things related to Balaji Prashant. The next one is pretty big, and it's got a lot of really cool stuff. The next one is number 980 Select, which is not number 980. If I ever get up to 980 incenses, I'll probably move this to become number 980. But it's number 63, 980 Select. It's had a bunch of other names in the past. Probably the one most people are familiar with, other than 980 Select, is Patchouli Select. I don't know how it got this name. There are many patchouli incenses that, well, they're called patchouli this or patchouli that, and most of them, I'm really mystified how they got the name, because none of them really smell much like patchouli, or any patchouli that I recognize, like green patchouli. Great, great incense, one of our best. I don't know why it doesn't resemble patchouli in any way. This one is very austere, sharp, slightly aggressive, definitely not sweet. I can tell you more what it isn't. It's not sweet, it's not floral. It's moderately bitter, moderately aggressive, has the smell to it of heat, right? Like when you first turn a furnace on in the wintertime. It also has a bit of like an oily, like an olive oil scorching kind of smell. I know these don't sound like wonderful things. I'm not really doing a good job selling it as a fragrance, but it actually is strangely clean. It's excellent for, where you have your cat boxes, which, our people tend to be cat people. So we always think in terms of what can I put in the room with the cat box. But there's also, that's quite a rumble, isn't it? If you smell it again now, try it again and think now of it. Think again the graham cracker note. We talked about that before, and the caramel and graham cracker note. And when you smell it again, or from a distance, you're going to start picking up that, and the bitterness won't be as noticeable. Okay.
There's a little sweetness.
Yeah, I said it's not sweet, but the truth is it is subtly so. I kind of have to backpedal on that one. You will pick up a caramel graham cracker note through all of that rather aggressive bitterness.
It's actually the bottom note.
Yeah, it is it is a base note.
It's a base note.
It
Takes
doesn't.
a while for it
This
to come
incense
out.
doesn't have actually any heart notes or top notes. It's
No,
not one of
it's the
those kind of
base-
incenses.
It's a base note.
This is good if you don't particularly care for florals, or you don't particularly care for very sweet incenses. It also has a very slight kind of root beer like root, like ginseng. I've visited some Chinese apothecaries that have a little bit of this. It's a very old smell. It sort of almost smells like antiques, but it has an interesting root like herb shop kind of quality about it. It's a very unusual incense, number 980 Select. We definitely put in our category of eccentric items. We forget to reach for it because it is so unusual. And the first few times, I didn't particularly care for it. It took me a while to appreciate. It's like Pink Floyd's Amagama.
Blue cheese.
Yeah, blue cheese. Amagama took me a long time before I started to really appreciate it. And I didn't know how much I liked it. And I played it, and I was like, this is not like Dark Side of the Moon or The Wall or any of that stuff, right?
Just got a phone call
Oh.
asking, I can't stay for this lecture.
Oh.
Will it still be streaming? And B, when is your next incense lecture?
Oh, that I don't know. You know. Magic
Yes,
Voice knows.
Magic Voice always knows.
Of course.
Next incense lecture is Thursday, believe it or not, November 13th,
November 13th.
2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Is it 2 or 1?
2.
2 weeks?
2 weeks before
Thanksgiving's very late
Thanksgiving.
then, isn't it?
The 27th is Thanksgiving. So perhaps
Wow.
on the 13th we
13th.
can think about incenses that go well for friends, family, and dinner.
Perhaps I might just continue on the numbering system.
Oh, we'll have
Seems
to
to-
fight about that.
All right, we'll fight. So those that care for 980 Select, I'll often show them a bunch of things. For example, number 73, Supreme Champa. This came up, I think, at some other point when we were showing up a few other incenses. You'll notice as you watch, if you choose to watch these discussions again and again or whatever, or you watch them all, you'll notice they'll kind of overlap, and we'll start to show these fragrances, and you say, oh, how they kind of at some point, I guess I should make a diagram of how this works, but it would be a real nightmare. If somebody chooses to do that, good for you. Anyway, this here is Supreme Champa. This is one of the incenses that when it comes up to the counter for purchase, I always ask them, have you ever used this one before? And I know that sounds suspicious, and I know it sounds like a turnoff. It's not that it's a bad fragrance. It's just the word champa, most people have certain assumptions on what it's going to be like. And this is not going to be like champa or your typical champa incense. This one here is considerably less sweet, considerably more aggressive, considerably more bitter. It's bittersweet is the term we use. I would say more bitter than sweet. It's very austere, very sharp, fairly aggressive, super, super clean. Again, not floral, not terribly sweet, very, very subtly sweet. But some people, I've heard such a huge variety of descriptions of it as somewhat like a cleansing agent, almost like a soap, like an old soap, like ivory soap, which I don't even know if people use anymore, but ivory soap.
It smells like when the heat comes up from a forced air system, and
Right.
the system has just been,
Right.
you just put new filters in, and it's kind of a warm, clean
Yeah.
heat.
It has a hot smell, a bit like ozone.
Not quite electrical. It's more like forced air heat that comes up from the registers. If you have forced air heating and you've just cleaned
Right.
the filter system, and that heat just comes up, and it just has a
It's
warm,
it's a
embracing.
hot smell. It's almost like like the lint burning off of your heating system. I know again it doesn't sound like an appealing fragrance. Try sample, right? Try sample. See what you think. It's definitely unlike anything again you've ever used before. It's one of our prides. We try and have incenses that most people have never tried before. You're turned off by florals. You're turned off by sweet stuff. This certainly can work for you. It's also excellent in a cat room or whatever because it's not. This is a very cleansing fragrance. It's even better, I think, at a distance. It's one of those fragrances, and when you're right on top of it, might be a bit aggressive.
It's a nice fragrance, background fragrance.
It might be a little bitter. This is one from a distance that you like even more. Try a sample of it. See what you think. All you have to lose is a self-addressed stamped envelope, and it's most unusual. We're going to go a little bit sweeter, a little less aggressive. And the next one, this is triple amber. This is one of the first incenses I ever carried. This is item number 7. It is still moderately aggressive as a fragrance, moderately sharp. Not nearly as sharp as Supreme Champa, and considerably sweeter, but no less bitter. This one you'll certainly pick up some of that apothecary herb shop. The one that used to be the most that way was Silver Temple. Something happened to Silver Temple. I don't know, the formula changed. I'm going to try it again, see if they went back to the old formula. That smells like ginseng. This has a little bit of that ginseng, root beer, and honey quality to it. You'll notice many similarities between it and Supreme Champa, but it's much, much sweeter. A lot of that rich celestial amber, the red amber, has a little bit of that. Some people describe a Play-Doh, that Play-Doh smell. Some ambers smell a little like Play-Doh, which is a very distinctive smell. Lightly sweet, a little bit of that root beer, bay, a little bit of bay in it. Whether it contains bay or not, I'm not really sure. But you certainly can smell something in it that's akin to bay, the oil of. There is some frankincense in there as well. So you're going to pick up a bit of that sort of lemon light quality.
Very complex.
Yeah, it is. And it's overall probably more easily accepted and a bit more agreeable, I suppose, than you would say Supreme Champa. But that doesn't mean that it's any better. The people that like Supreme Champa would never touch Triple Amber, and vice versa, usually, So that's one of our favorites, Triple Amber. Also super, super cleaning. That's a really good one also for cat boxes. Most of these are because they're not florals.
I don't know if people really realize that we have cats running around.
Yeah, they This is one that kind of gets put aside, and it really shouldn't. This is Azzaro with two Z's, A-Z-Z. Number 135. It's a pretty obscure fragrance. I wouldn't be surprised if it's made by the same people who make 980 Select. Because you'll notice more similarities to it than differences. They're nearly identical. Nearly identical.
Similar to
the first one we were showing, 980 Select, number 63. I'm searching for differences even. It is a bit lighter. It's like about a 3/4 strength. 980 Select. There is a bit of noticeable patchouli in this. It's very, very distant. It's very, very faint. Also has that root-like quality. Here, let me show you this. Has, again, that sort of slightly medicinal earth root-like, like herb medicine, which is very, very super clean. And see what I'm talking about? It's almost identical. In fact, if I showed you 980 Select right next to it, you can hardly tell them apart.
what number was 980 Select?
It's number 63. 980 Select is 63. It's a little bit less powdery than 980 Select. It's a little bit lighter. It's lighter but subtly more aromatic. Actually, 980 Select also, I want to note now, there is a subtle diacetyl acetate. Some people pronounce it diacetyl. So butter-like quality. This is the 980 Select. I'll show you this again. And you'll notice a bit of that sort of popcorn-like quality, or even a basmati rice, an old basmati rice kind of smell to it that I don't get as much as Azzaro. Azzaro is sort of almost like a slightly simplified, slightly lighter version of 980 Select. But it has more, though, of that caramel note. There's a little bit more of the caramel toffee note to it. Not to say that these are sweet fragrances. They're definitely not. They're definitely not sweet fragrances. It's also a bit of a spruce-like quality I'm getting that I never really noticed before also. Part of these discussions are really great because I get to really analyze these fragrances. I don't really often take the time to think that much about them. I go in with what I remember and I relight them. And very often, now that I'm actively thinking about these fragrances, I'm picking up stuff about them that I didn't even realize myself. I never picked up that balsam note before in Azzaro. That it's new to me, and I never noticed also really how noticeable. Never noticed how noticeable the that graham cracker toffee-like quality, but it's dry. It's not a sweet. It's like, imagine making toffee without sugar. I know you can't, but that's kind of what it would be like. Or, like people describe certain things like spruce beer as like Coca-Cola without the sugar,
Would you say this would be a light alternative to some of the pine fragrances?
No,
For holiday time?
no substitute for Payne's balsam fir.
Would you say it would be reminiscent of a little bit of holiday?
No, I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. For that, I would go with it's Naga Durbar. Should be listed in there. That kind of has a cinnamony quality. I'm going to show one last one. People at like 980 Select often also like, it's called Golden Road. This item number 74. First time I tried it, I was a little startled. I didn't expect anything quite like this. sometimes you'll see the same fragrance as patchouli gold, which is even more confusing because it again does not smell anything like patchouli. I don't know where this comes from. I have, several incenses smell nothing like patchouli. They're called patchouli. The best patchouli incense. We're gonna bring that up after we pass this around. This is quite piney and balsamic. Here we go. Let me hand that to you. This is very bright, piney, balsamic, right?
Very good.
Yeah, right.
Oh, you can almost feel
very sprucey.
That moistness that.
Yeah, that's some of the ingredients
Seth.
that are in there are hygroscopic, but it's not Halmandi. Yeah, okay, interesting. It does have an earthy note, doesn't it? A loamy, earthy note, which maybe that's where the patchouli comes in, where they think maybe it might have enough patchouli in it for it to be noticed, but I'm not noticing it. Some people describe patchouli as, of course, an earthy, loamy quality.
Basil.
There is an herbal note, yeah, like anise,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right, like star anise, more like star anise.
Yeah.
For anybody that's ever gone to like the Vietnamese pho restaurants, the Vietnamese, the Thai basil has this very noticeable anise-like quality. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see very much what you're saying.
Almost like a 4-spice.
Like a 5-spice powder, a little bit,
Five-spice.
a little bit. I'm not getting the cinnamon
No,
so much, but I'm definitely getting a star anise-like quality, which really works super well with that piney note.
Yeah.
See, I'm getting a real chance to try these things. I'm benefiting probably more than you guys. I probably should just do this more myself,
I'm not going there.
No, it's a real. If you want to pick a good, actually, when you mentioned holiday fragrances, this is not a bad choice. Because this is so piney and bright and sprucey. And that sort of star anise basil note certainly doesn't interfere with that. Deep in its core, its base notes are amber, very, very powerful.
But you don't
Amber.
smell the
No,
sweetness
because
of amber.
the top notes really clean it up. That's the problem with some base note incenses that don't have top notes, and vice versa, can be cloying because they're just not balanced really well. That is not to say they're bad incenses. It's just, and they're not likable. It's just some people don't particularly like to have base notes or heart notes or top notes, which is fine. Sometimes I don't want them. Sometimes I just want rose and nothing else. Just top note rose. Like one of the incenses that we probably, I don't know if we are going to get to today or not, it's called Night Blossom, and that's all top note. It's like white ginger. They call that white ginger. Sometimes it's like that orange blossom, neroli, really tropical, like really, really just absolutely romantic and great, like, nighttime fragrance, especially like summer reminds me of that Florida, like at night when you're by the orange blossom grove, stuff like that. So we're going to move number 66. How are we doing on time? I don't even know.
You have 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. All right. We'll show. These are simple. This is fragrance called Cital.
Don't forget, we are already set for your next incense lecture on
November 13th
of November. So if we don't get to them all, we have time to go back.
What I'm going to do then? All right. I'm just going to show you the next two. But since I mentioned, I'm going to show you Cital. This is the next one. This is number 66. And we're talking about camphorous incenses. And this is almost identical. It was a company, I don't know if they're still around, the House of Spice. It was a chain of Indian groceries.
Oh, wow.
And they had their chandan, their sandalwood. It was very much like this. Almost identical.
They had one in Chicago,
Yeah,
one in Philly.
We had one right behind us here in Cherry Hill. Anyway, it's bright, camphorous. It has a patchouli-like note to it this here. Earthy, a little bit damp almost, a little musty, like not basementy. We do have basementy incenses. We showed one of them called Hina, which is very, very basementy. It reminds me, it has an interesting tropical vibe about it, almost Floridian, but a bright, camphoresque, clean, not sweet fragrance, super, super clean, absolutely beautiful. This is a good company item. It's a good one for company because it's not floral, and that bright camphoresque note really, really cleans the air. Kind of, it almost seems to have almost an antiseptic quality to the air, not in terms of fragrance, but in terms of cleaning the funk out of the air. It has a really, really good way of doing it.
Anti-cabbage.
Yeah, right. Well, we did cauliflower for
2 days.
and we're still paying the price in the house. We can really,
And we have cats. Thank God we have incense.
So Cetal is a sandalwood-based incense, very, very bright, camphorous, subtle touch of patchouli. Also something very cool, slightly damp about it. There was a hotel we used to go to in Florida that their basement floor, where they had little shops.
And nice skating rink.
Yeah, had this same smell to it. And it was right off the beach. It was Miami Beach. And it always had that distinctive smell to it. Very cool. It's a very cool smell to it. This would be an interesting one to sample, also. Because it's just so hard to describe it.
Samples.
Samples. They don't know who you're talking about.
I do.
I know. He was a local guy. Local kids show, Captain Noah.
Send the letters.
So you don't know. Elsewhere in the country, you don't know. He had the most powerful Philadelphia accent, which I didn't know what a Philadelphia accent was because I grew up here. And then I had actually listened to him like, wow, so that's what a Philadelphia accent is. It's like, yeah, it's weird. It's one of the hardest accents to do because most people end up either sounding New York or, it's
What's a New York accent?
yeah, right. So this one here, this is Saffron Sandal. And you'll notice quite a bit of similarity. This is item number 85. Quite a bit of similarity to Cetal. Also very bright, a little bit camphorous. Has that safflower note, which the next one we're going to show is even more still. A little bit of that, which I describe often as the smell of old books, right? Or if you go into an old vinyl store, record store, there's a distinctive smell to old records. It's in the cardboard. Obviously, the action of mold growth. It's not mildewy, has that sort of musty smell. If you really like that, do try Hina because that really smells musty. Particularly people that are fond of a type of tea from Yunnan province called pu'er tea. If you like musty, earthy things, check out pu'er tea from Yunnan province. It's really, really earthy and basementy, for lack of a better way of describing it. I know it doesn't sound appealing, but when you try it, you'll be amazed. This one here, I mentioned something has more of that old books-like quality. This is Kesari Deluxe. Kesari is saffron, but it doesn't smell like saffron. It's not like you're making pie. It's a different kind of incense. The best one that I used to be able to get was Padma Kesari. I can't seem to get that anymore. This one here was adopted by the Transcendental Meditators, particularly. Don't know why, but it has been. Maybe because it has a very cooling, slightly damp, earthy, musty,
Sweet.
old books-like quality.
Sweetness.
The best way to describe it is the smell of old books. A little bit also of kind of a cereal note, like a bowl of cornflakes has a little bit of that going for it, which is probably what you're picking up as the sweet note. It almost has a cereal sweetness, like malt. Remember we were talking about malt?
Like malt.
A little bit of that quality in there. But I'd hesitate to call it a sweet incense, right? It's very agreeable. Very, very agreeable. Again, it has that sort of damp, musty quality. It's not hampery. Hina, that is hampery. I'm going to show two more. We're good? I mentioned one before. It was called Flower. Also has been known as Paradise Flower. which I can't get anymore. I believe that was the old number 11, actually. This is as close as I can get right now. This is, let me find the name here, the number rather. This is Atma Darshan. It is number 83. This is as close as I can get to flower. Very bright, very camphorous. Remember talking about that camphorous note? Super, super bright, super clean, very camphorous. Definitely not sweet. Almost minty. I guess maybe that's the camphor note. It's absolutely gorgeous. Just, it is so, so clean.
Yeah.
There's a vaguely festive quality about it. You know, it does have a little bit of that champa quality in it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is a little sweeter than I thought.
What number was this again?
This is number 83, Atma Darshan. We have another incense called Darshan, not to be confused with it. You might like that one too if you like this. Darshan is an interesting musky cologne, like masculine cologne-like quality. It has a distant smell, kind of a tannicky distant smell, almost like the smell of green bananas. If you've ever smelled a bunch of green bananas, it has that kind of hiding in its background, and it's quite musky, quite masculine. This also is very masculine, isn't it? I could see kind of like a men's club kind of thing, having a little bit of this going for it. Maybe because I'm picking up a little something akin to maybe cigar leaf.
It has a cigar leaf.
Yeah, a wrapper leaf. Like one of those, the Ecuadorian wrapper, right? The Ecuadorian wrapper, beautiful, love them. It's not like the heavy Maduro wrapper, but it has a little bit of that, well, EMS, English Market Select wrapper leaf. It's like a light brown. Yeah, there is a little bit of that champa quality going on too that I never really noticed before. But it's very, very camphorous. That's the most noticeable thing. Very bright, a little patchouli-ish, a little bit earthy. It is subtly sweet. I was wrong. I wrote that off. I'm going to show one last one. People like Sital also like this very unusual item. This comes in these little boxes. There are these little logs. It's a dupe. So we're going to call it dupe, which are referring to incenses without a bamboo core. Most of them are solid, little sticks. Dupes can also be powders. They can also be this sort of gooey, tar-like, kind of dough-like material. It looks like finger hash, I guess, is the best way to describe it. Can't think of a better way to describe it. Those are very strange, and they have an interesting tarry smell when they burn. This one here, Padmini Superfine Dupe. We did give it a number, I believe. Padmini Superfine. It's number 143. We gave it number 143. There's no magic to these numbers. And there's also Padmini Dupe, regular Padmini Dupe. I just have grown. This was the first one I had. I actually didn't know there was a regular Padmini dupe. I only knew there was Padmini Superfine. First had this, I believe at the psychedelic shop in San Francisco, which not there anymore. All those old places are gone. I miss them very much. I think the only holdout from that era is probably City Lights Bookstore. Might still be there. Let me know. Email us if it's still there. But all those places, the poster mat. Sandalwood is the core of this fragrance. Hand you that little roach there, right? Sandalwood is the core of this fragrance. It's super bright, super clean, a little bit sweet. Tart has sort of a sweet and sour quality about it. But again, that camphor note is so noticeable, right? That super, super bright camphor note. Pass it to the left, right? Yeah. Right? Padmini Superfine. And it comes in these little boxes, and people are so in love with this stuff. They come in little bundles of 10, I think, or no, they come in bundles of 12. And we sell them for $10 because these are normally $1 per box. But people are just absolutely enamored with this fragrance. and so am I. It's a little bit inconvenient to burn because the shape doesn't fit any particular burner. So I have a little burner and I put some sand in the bottom and I stand it up on a little hill of sand. They work real nice. Yeah, super bright, subtly sweet, camphorous, absolutely gorgeous. It is quite smoky. I mean, in terms of the volume that it puts out, especially when you first light it. So that's my only caveat. It's definitely going to produce a lot of smoke, but it has a great linger. This one will linger. The more you use it, the more it will linger. But after the first one, you'll come back hours and hours later, and it'll still be hanging there. And so it's really, really, really great. This is an excellent fragrance. Bright and camphorous, if you like those kind of fragrances. Do give it a try. So anyway, our next one we said was the 13th. You said? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, November 13th. The internet. We got through the whole thing. It didn't crash. God bless us. Wish everybody the best, and we'll see you then. Any events?
Tomorrow night is our drum circle, and we have energized the water in the full moon.
Oh, yeah.
So we will energize crystal. We also have a wire wrap class, and on Saturday.
When's the wire wrap class?
It's on Friday from 2:30 to 4:30.
Yeah, this Friday, if you can tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can be here for that, if there's any way, you really should. You'll get to work with Marianne. She's a scream. You love her.
And then on Saturday, hopefully the weather will prevail and give us some good weather. Jug Band's going to play, and we will be doing our Mad Hatter party. And
Excellent guys, excellent band. You'll like them.
The 25th of this month, we're going to do a Halloween party. Costumes are not mandatory, but fun.
Dress is mandatory.
Dress is mandatory.
Yes.
However, dressing as a hippie does not constitute a costume.
Hippie dressing.
No, hippies are, you can come in tie-dye and all
You have
that,
your dressing on the side.
but that is not a costume. And,
That's wardrobe. That's not a costume.
Yeah.
we want to thank you for attending Dr. Seth's Incense lesson and welcome you back on the 13th of November.
13th of November, so 5:30. It's cool.
Good
We'll be there.
night.
Just hit the red button and you go.
Red button. Okay. Hit the button, Frank.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to take